It's renowned as a tough job with long hours, rude customers and a battle against some of the worst traffic congestion in Australia. But tonight, Sydney cabbies have a new complaint: the appalling condition of their cars. Two drivers are bravely speaking out to 7:30 about the shocking safety condition of the vehicles they are forced to lease to make a living. The drivers do so despite the fear of getting the sack. But operator networks are feeling the pinch too, and a recent government report suggests that, like the heavy vehicle industry, eroding profit margins are behind cutbacks in inspections and maintenance. Elise Morgan talks to industry insiders in this special report.
Michael Hattrick's been driving taxis in Sydney for more than 30 years. At the beginning of every shift, there's always the same concerns. Will he get enough fares? Will his passengers be pleasant? And will he survive peak hour? But over the last few years, he's had an added stress: the safety of the car he's driving.
Most significant things are problems with brakes, suspension, quite often steering, tyres.
Michael Hattrick's so worried, he's agreed to have the car he's told to drive to be independently examined by a licensed mechanic. It's a risk that could cost him his job, but he's so alarmed about the current state of the taxi industry, it's a risk he's prepared to take.
Because many of the cars that I get to drive and I see other people driving are in an appalling state of roadworthiness.
The ABC arranged for a qualified mobile mechanic to test his claims. Ray Tabone immediately finds problems.
Premature wear on the inside edge. As it stands, the car is not roadworthy. We found on an inspection that two front tyres are worn on the inside shoulder to the point where the canvas is starting to come through. That should have been picked up.
Concerningly though, Ray believes the car has been recently serviced.
See how clean the oil is? Tells me it's obviously been recently serviced.
So should a car that's been recently serviced with, from your understanding, have tyres that look like that?
Well, no. If it's been serviced, those tyres should have been found at that time.
At the end of his shift that night at 3 a.m, Michael Hattrick says he notified the taxi operator of the problems with the car. He filled in the form that's required and kept a copy where he underlined the problems. But 1 week later, nothing had been fixed, which comes as no surprise.
These forms are badly designed and they ask a lot of wrong questions. For instance, the form asks if the driver will testify to the roadworthiness of the vehicle. Well, the driver is not a trained mechanic.
Michael Hattrick's not alone in his experience. This driver asked to be de-identified for fear of losing his job. He's been driving taxis for 3 years for a different operator. He says all the cars he's driven in that time have had serious mechanical problems.
Suspension, then got a brake, and yeah, these two major things I found is the issue on this car.
Do you think these issues could be dangerous?
Yes, it could be dangerous. I'm just driving like 70 kilometers and I'm just slowly pressing the brake. How this could be a proper brake.
He's scared to be driving the car.
Nowadays in the city is anyone can jump in front of your cab anytime without any notice. It happens so many times with me. So if you do not have a proper brake and like a sound car, anything could happen.
We also had his car assessed. Ray Tabone found a litany of defects. The more serious ones are putting lives at risk. He says the ABS brakes simply aren't working.
You can feel a thump, and I can see the engine mounts popping up.
The engine's dangerously loose. Tyres are bald.
Unroadworthy.
And a whole part of the suspension isn't there.
The rear sway bar is completely missing. The rear sway bar is supposed to go through those mounting points and up through the lower control arm here.
What does that do?
Well, basically that stabilises the vehicle. The vehicle has had some services recently. These items should have been picked up at that service.
The taxi's unroadworthy and dangerous. A 7:30 crew were unable to locate the owner. But the operator who Michael Hattrick works for, Kismet Taxis, was willing to speak. But you categorically say that all of your cars are safe?
Yes, of course. And not only that, even the drivers, when they come and insist that there's something happening in a car, it's immediately addressed. Absolutely immediately addressed.
Why would we have drivers that say problems
No,
have gone on for weeks?
there is only one particular driver, and
We've had evidence that the same car has not been fixed for a period of over a week.
I'm happy to admit that. See this?
He shows us his maintenance records, saying he follows the law to the letter.
You're more than welcome to read this.
Getting cars checked at government certified mechanics and maintaining them in between.
Which is a very broad perspective. It's like how big is a piece of rope? What's your target of quality?
He admits financial pressures are causing serious problems in the industry. And Kismet's owner says that profit is getting smaller as costs rise.
Because my plates, which I lease, they were when I started was $1,150, they became $1,650, and they're now $2,700 a month. Green slip. You know how much you pay for your green slip for your private car? Maybe $600. You know how much we have to pay for a taxi? Let me show you that. $5,700 today. 3 months from now, it's going to be $6,400 a year. Please, a year, a green slip. Insurances on taxis, when you put your first taxi on, you're looking at minimum of $8,000 to start with.
You see a lot of horrific things that, cars coming in with bald tyres and half the suspension sort of dragging down.
Kismet's mechanic says financial pressures are affecting safety.
Are operators and drivers always happy to get things that are wrong fixed?
Not always. Some operators are more keen to get things fixed. Some operators want to do things on the cheap and just fix one specific problem and don't worry about the other 4 problems a weekend here. So so there's a lot of instructions from the operators that some operators don't run their shows 100%.
Do you feel confident about 100% of the taxis that are on the road?
I can feel confident for our fleet of taxis on the road, for 100% of the taxis on the road.
But union official Michael Aird says a lack of government oversight is to blame for the safety woes.
So you've got mechanics who are being paid by taxi owners to inspect their vehicles, who have an extreme conflict of interest to basically assess the vehicle as safe if they want to get ongoing work.
The Minister for Transport declined an interview. The Roads and Maritime instead issued a statement saying it does conduct random spot checks. Last year, it says, it pulled over 7,500 cabs. 557 were defective, mostly for issues like faulty lights and indicators, body damage and dirt. However, the spot checks don't cover key safety components, which the NRMA says is unacceptable.
Obviously it's important to have air conditioning, but so is having brakes. So we want to make sure that the on-the-spot inspections are looking at things like brakes and looking at the safety elements.
The New South Wales Taxi Council disagree with the NRMA.
There's a good, robust and indeed rigorous system in place to ensure that taxis are maintained to a good standard in terms of not only mechanical requirements but also passenger comfort and safety standards.
Michael Hattrick would welcome a tougher regime of routine inspections.
I'd like to see that checking put back in the hands of the what was the RTA and into the hands of what is now the Roads and Maritime Services.
Why?
Because I think such checking could be done more objectively.
The union says that 22,000 drivers, their passengers and other road users are being put in danger.
There are deaths and injuries on our roads involving taxi cabs. The only thing that's surprising is that there hasn't been more. But it's the responsibility of government to not wash their hands of the problem, to step in, to say that we need appropriate standards in this industry for the community.